Awesome. So welcome to the live stream. Again, fireside chat. So it's kind of like an informal conversation. So first thing, Steve, start of raising capital. I think that we were talking to the audience before. Like a lot of entrepreneurs are struggling with how is the process of raising capital.
Right.
And my answer to them is traction comes first. So my first question to you is what are the chances for a company that has no traction, no users, no revenue? What are their odds of raising money from an investor?
Probably very little in today's climate. I mean, unless you're raising what a lot of people call a triple F round. Well, you've heard of the double F, friends and family. Sometimes people call it a triple F round, friends, family, and fools. So sometimes you get a friends and family round. That'll be, where you can get $10, $20, $30, $50,000 US to get a company started, maybe more. Depends who your family is. But for raising serious institutional capital, if you have no traction, it's really, really difficult. There's a lot of ways around that, but it's going to be really, really difficult.
So that begs the question, how do you get to traction if you have no money? It's the chicken egg issue, right?
Sure. So when you have a chicken and egg issue, I think part of it also, though, the first thing I'd like to hit upon is, and I'm kind of looking because we have a live audience today, which is kind of cool. Why do you want to raise capital? Like, I meet so many entrepreneurs and all they're doing is chasing venture dollars and they're chasing angel investors. And I'd say, why aren't you chasing customers? Well, I need cash first. What do you need cash for? Well, I have to build the product. Why do you have to build the product? Sorry, we're supposed to be informal. It's fireside chat, right? I call bullshit on that. You don't need a product to prove that there's a market there. You can go meet with customers, talk with customers. If you're B2C, you can run tests. So those other surrogate markers that you could use for traction that isn't pure traction. And sometimes we find when you're at the idea stage, you have to use those markers to prove that there's even a problem that's worth solving and that you have a solution that's kind of unique.
I totally agree with that. And I've said it so many times, but I feel that people don't believe me because I wanted them to hear it from you, the investor. But that's great.
Absolutely.
Great. We have a bunch of questions that we laid out. Okay. So let's talk about kind of like the process, right? So how does that process work? Give us an overview. How does the process of raising capital work from hey, I have a company, I have traction, I've figured out that I need to raise money to bring this company to the next level. What do we do now?
So you have traction,
you
have a pitch deck,
check.
You have all of that. So first of all, I would just ask, and like using your product is really great and your advice is really great. I just want to make sure, like Dreamit meets thousands of startups a year. We work in 3 focus areas, and most of our companies are all pre-Series A. We love them to have a little bit of traction, a little bit of revenue coming in already in secure tech, urban tech, and health tech are the areas we focus on. But if you're a startup that's looking for, like, how do I get started on that process? How do you start reaching out to investors? I think one of the important things when you reach out to investors is, first of all, do you have a very compelling story? I think we talked about this a little earlier. A lot of startups have a pitch deck, but they don't have a great story. They have all the slides, but they don't fit together, and it's not a compelling story. And when I mean a compelling story, one of the things, and I'll get back to process, I promise. One of the things about a compelling story is, how's this going to be really, really big? If you're a venture investor and you're placing a bet, and the company is, look, we think in a year or two we could get maybe to $1 million a year in revenue, most venture investors aren't going to find that interesting. They want to swing for the fences because that doesn't mean that your company, there's anything wrong with it, but it might not be venture backable, right? Because venture is looking for a very specific level of return in a very specific company or size company. But to get back to your question, like, what's the process you go through? So you start reaching out to investors. LinkedIn is a great way of doing it. AngelList is a great way of doing it. What's compelling about you and why should that investor care, right? So what is that really succinct 1-paragraph email? You don't have to send your pitch deck. What's going to hook them that they're going to come back to you and say, I want to learn more? And you can do that on cold outreach. You can try to network through friends. You can network through your university. We're here in New York City today. Maybe you went to NYU or you went to some other school in New York City. You could network through people in your school network or other networks. Reach out to those investors. Send them a really compelling, we call it Email Ninja. We actually have a pitch deck on that, or a talk that we do on Email Ninja. Send them a really compelling email that's very, very short, straight to the point, and why they should be interested in your startup.
Yeah, so following up on that, and we sort of had a crash course on this on Dreamit. Warm intros are ideal, of course, but not everybody has access to warm intros.
Sure.
So, getting in touch with the investor, the pitch deck, really this email is like permission to send my pitch deck, right? So it's, hey, this is what I'm doing in 1 or 2 lines, which are very hard to write, by the way. Kind of like summarizing a complex company in 2 lines is hard, but you need to do it. 2 lines, hey, can I send you my pitch deck? Like that's the way you guys taught me to do it. So basic step, you send your pitch deck. If that's interesting, you get a meeting. That meeting is an hour meeting where you go through that pitch deck in a more evolved sort of way. Same, more or less the same slides that you already sent, but you kind of elaborate on them. And let's say the investor is interested. So what happens next?
Okay, before the investor's interested, can I just give a little advice?
Yeah,
I want to dive into something that you said. So you send that short email, it's 1 or 2 sentences, maybe it's a paragraph. Let me tell you about things that you should put in that email and that you shouldn't put in the email, and it's in your pitch deck as well. Number 1, what problem are you solving? I'd start there. Why is that problem big and compelling? What's your solution and what's unique about your solution? And because a lot of times we meet with startups all the time, you're 10 minutes into their pitch deck or listening and talking to them, and I'm just sitting there going, I still don't understand what problem they're solving. They're going on and droning on about technology. And my background, like a lot of people, right? You have an interesting background. I think I have a background. I won't say it's interesting, but I have a very strong tech background. The number of times we see startups reach out to us and their opening sentences is we're applying machine learning, blockchain, and AI. They're trying to throw out all the buzzwords. And tell you the truth, I don't give a shit. I don't care what technology you're using. I don't care what buzzword you're using. I care about what problem you're solving, what's the solution, and what's unique about the solution, and what's unique about your insight. Don't throw out all the bullshit stuff. It used to be, we were client server and we're using Facebook and we're mobile and we're social. That's all passé. Now we have all the new words.
AI.
Doesn't matter. I don't care that you're using machine learning. I care about what problem you're solving, what's unique about it. So let's get past that. So just to add to that, now you said, what should the deck look like, or what was your question? Sorry.
No, so what happens after, let's say my startup school, let's say the investor digs it.
Yep.
The meeting went well.
Okay, wait, you went through okay, fine. So we're already through the meeting. We'll come back to the meeting.
So kind of like a step-by-step.
Yeah, it's fine.
So what happens after the meeting?
So what happens after the meeting? Well, after the meeting, you need to follow up with that investor. And I think one of the things that we find, and I want to touch upon this, and maybe we'll get more into the meeting later, is how do you end that meeting? So one of the things, we were talking to a couple of the entrepreneurs that are with us live in the audience today, and one of the things they brought up is I've been meeting with a bunch of investors, and I'd love to ask them, what did you do at the end of the meeting? Right? Because I find a common fail that entrepreneurs make is they forget when you are raising capital, you are selling. So I'd ask for the people that are in the audience, the people that are live streaming with us, the people that are in front of us, do you realize that when you're raising capital, you're selling? Just like you're selling your product, you're selling equity. And what I want you to think about is if you've ever done sales in your life and trial closing a customer or asking for the business, we find most entrepreneurs, before they get to after the meeting, at the end of that pitch meeting, they don't ask for the business. They don't say, is this the type of company you've invested in? You don't try to close it. So let's assume they tried to close it and they have some follow-up next steps. So afterwards, to get back to your question, what they should be doing is following up, hey, you had these 2 or 3 issues that you said if we could answer them, that would be interesting. Following up with them, what additional information? You don't want to torture the investor, but you certainly want to follow up with them and find out what do we need to do to just keep driving this forward. Think about it like you're selling. You're trying to close the sale. What do you need to do to close the sale in a very professional way?
Do you want to go with the question?
Do I want to go with the question? Let me ask you a question. Sure.
Yeah.
When you're working with a lot of startups today, they're working with Slidebean. Some of them seem to you that they're now even coming to you saying, "Can you help us with our deck?" What are the 1 or 2 most common mistakes you're seeing startups make almost every single time? Like if I blindfolded you and I said, "I'm going to give you a pitch deck and something from a startup. Tell me what do you think are the 2 or 3 most common mistakes?" Blindfolded, what do you think they're going to be?
I think first, time and reason why they raise capital, and that's why I brought that up first.
Okay.
And I always try to tell them, like, I don't think that you might want to go back to the drawing board. You might want to get some traction. You might want to refigure the problem again. That's one. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
Second, a little bit related, is the reason why they're starting the company. I think that great companies start because people find a problem in the world that they can solve. By problem, I mean the business opportunity that they can solve, that their expertise applies to that problem, and that they have the skills and the reason to build it. And some of the companies that we come across are people that just like, I want to start a company.
Right.
Maybe they're not happy at their job, or maybe they don't have a job. They're like, oh, I want to start a company. So that it's great, and it's a great motivation, but that puts you in a very tough position because you don't have money, you don't have income, and then you assume that raising capital for this new company is going to be the next step.
Right.
So no, I think that the motivation or the reason to start the company is very relevant, and I'd say those are the two bigger mistakes.
Okay. Can I add to that and see if you would agree with the same thing? And by the way, to remind people that are in the audience here or on the live stream, if you have a question, post it in the comments. If you have a live stream, if you're in front of the audience, if you go to that Google link, that would be great. Post the question and we'll take them at the end. We'll take them live. I wanted to say, I don't know if you know this statistic, and I don't know if other people watching know this statistic, but what percentage of startups fail? When you look at the reason why startups fail, why do they fail? And I'm not talking necessarily about restaurants, because that's a high failure rate too. And what we've seen time and again is about 50% of startups fail because they're not solving a big and urgent problem. It's right out of the get-go. So when you were just talking about, I just want to address, what's the reason you started it? What's the problem that you're solving? I think one of the things we see a lot, like the problem that people are solving is not interesting. They're not. Josh Koppelman has a great blog post from years ago, The Pick. They just pick a problem, they go after it, but they really haven't de-risked or analyzed the problem. And one of the things, it's like when we look at our pitch decks, when startups come into Dreamit and then go through the Dreamit process, we want typically, have your cover slide. And the first slide after that, what's the problem? For us, we see thousands of startups a year. I want guardrails in my mind, put the problem in space so I understand. And then why is that problem? Why have you started it? Why are you choosing this problem? Or why is this problem chosen you? And how do you prove to us that problem is really big and urgent and compelling? And just a quick note, the analogy that we use a lot on the problem statement side is, and I'll bring that back up in a second, the problem statement is, it's a little bit, we talk to startups all the time. They say, well, I'm solving a really big pain point. It's a big pain point that customers have. And I'll say, great, how painful? How painful is it? When you go to the dentist, whether it's the United States or Costa Rica, when they take that metal thing and they tap on your tooth, does this tooth hurt? No. Is it this tooth where the pain? No. How about this? And you jump out of the chair, that's the pain. We want to know that a startup is hitting a pain like that, that's so hard that it makes you jump out of your chair, because if it's not a really big pain point, if it's not a really big problem, we find out that customers won't adopt the technology, right? So anyway, so just back to
and a little bit related to that, and you mentioned this, and we have a video on it, by the way. On the small business, I call it the small business versus startup.
This is on your Slidebean YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's right.
And I find that at Slidebean on YouTube?
That's exactly right.
And the name of the video is?
That's small business versus startup.
Okay, cool.
You know how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm probably using the wrong terminology here.
Subscribe to his channel. Great content. Awesome graphics. Yes, go ahead.
I'm probably using the wrong terminology here on separating these two types of companies, because they're both startups and they're both small businesses. But,
right.
The startup, the small business is the restaurant.
Right.
Is it solving a problem? Yes, but I think that goes to your point. It's a small problem. People are hungry and they need to eat.
Right.
And there are no pizza places around. So that's a small problem, but it's been solved already in other places. And then there's the startup version of that, which solves probably a global problem. A problem that is experienced across many countries, and a problem that hopefully where technology can have a huge effect on solving it with a small staff. I think that it also relates to how much that company scales. This is a very old example already. This is 2019, but I love the example of when Facebook bought Instagram, they had 13 employees. Right. So it's a $1 billion company with 13 employees. So it's a problem that you can solve at a very large scale thanks to technology. Right. And then going to a third mistake I see is, you have to understand sometimes what type of company you're building and what type of investor you have to look for, depending on what company you are. The Steve kind of investor, they want the Instagram version of that, the high scale potential for $1 billion company. A good example is, an investor that coming at an early stage is looking to make a 10x income on their investment, 10x return on their investment.
Right.
Why? Because out of those companies that they'll invest in, a large percentage of them will fail, and they need to make up for that money with the one or two that succeed. Right. Even in our Dreamit batch, a lot of companies failed. Including ours in the first time, not the second.
And I built startups that have failed too. Right. By the way, for everybody watching, if you think it's this is not an easy process, it's not easy. And most startups, and a lot of founders and serial entrepreneurs, they have their successes and failures. And if you're not failing, They say you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, so, and it's important to understand and separate the two. I think that sometimes the startup press doesn't do a great job of separating the two, or it kind of gives people the wrong notion that raising investor or venture capital is easier than it actually is.
Right.
Or that this type of company can raise capital like this when it actually can't.
Right.
So that's the other one.
Can I just add to that, though?
Yeah.
The startup press and what they lionize and what they make is so great. We see a lot of startups that come into Dreamit. So we work on about 40 startups a year, go through the Dreamit program across 2 cycles. And when they do that, a lot of times they'll come in and we'll say, what's success for you? And they're like, if I raise $20 or $30 million, that's success of going through Dreamit. Like, why is the amount of capital you raise your measure of success? So I think one of the other problems that a lot of entrepreneurs and startups get stuck on is, I want to raise a really big number because I want to put a headline in TechCrunch that says, I raised a $30 million Series A. It's like, that shouldn't be your measure of success. We find a lot of startups focus more on how much capital they can raise, the number of users they can acquire at a low cost, and how much revenue they can generate. So I just want to point out, like, the headline not to focus on is how much do you raise. That is not a measure of success, in my mind.
Yep,
Anyway,
agreed.
Sorry.
And then I think that goes to probably the next topic that we haven't agreed on, but we already talked about, wanted to talk about, bootstrapping.
Yep.
So to you as an investor, is a bootstrapped company still exciting? Question one, which relates to, when should a company bootstrap versus try to raise venture capital?
Sure. I would say a company should try to bootstrap as long as you possibly can. Don't raise capital. It is very expensive. It is a time-consuming process. Investors are a complete pain in the ass, but we do add value. And I would try to go as long as we can. Dustin, who's with us today, was part of RevZilla. Anthony Bucci was on Dreamit Live recently and talking about bootstrapping, and Anthony bootstrapped that company, RevZilla, in the motorsports space from $0 to, I don't know, they were doing $150 million in revenue and got acquired and bootstrapped the whole thing. If you can bootstrap, bootstrap. If you're, try to delay raising capital as long as possible. We have a lot of companies that come into Dreamit that are 2 or 3 years old, and we're going to be their first money going in. A good friend of mine runs a company down in the Philadelphia area, Susquehanna Growth Equity. They were the first money into Credit Karma. I don't know if you've heard of Credit Karma. Credit Karma was doing, I don't know, a couple $100 million a year in revenue, and they bootstrapped all the way there and then finally raised capital. So I would just say delay as long as you can. Look, if you're a biotech, my wife runs biotechs, right? She does phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. You're not going to bootstrap that company. You might get some grants and funding in the beginning. We have a lot of Israeli companies that come into Dreamit. They'll bootstrap because the government will write them a check for a few $100,000 from the chief scientist office. Bootstrap as long as you can. Delay raising capital. And one of the advantages of doing that is by not having a lot of capital, it focuses you to be more creative. We find sometimes capital makes people lazy and less creative. So that's
it also makes you spend more.
Also makes you spend. Yep.
Yeah, like you can get this is the fireside chat version of this answer, but yeah, when you don't have money, you're inevitably extremely careful with it.
Yep.
And then when you have money in the bank, you can suddenly afford more things, and you inevitably spend more. Correct. Also, if you're a bootstrap company, and speaking from the CEO, and I shouldn't say this, but your employees are willing to understand what this is. But then you're a funded company, like they'll expect a raise, they'll expect more closer to market salaries.
Right.
So the dynamic of a company, I think, changes a lot when the first money comes in.
Right. And I would you want to burn up all your intellectual capital before you start raising venture capital. And we find by raising venture capital, your brain cells seem to go away. And people don't want to burn up. They'll be like, I need to raise $1 million. Why? Because if I could get 1% of the market and 1,000 users, and that's why I need $1 million. Like, how about here's $10,000, go figure it out and get clever. Like, are you burning up? Are you being clever? Like, I love startups, and we have another Dreamit dose on this, how to be clever on more than one axis. Being clever, the less cash you have, it forces sometimes entrepreneurs and startups to be unbelievably clever. So,
True.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, look at what you're doing on YouTube. Right? I'm not kidding. I mean, you're spending money on YouTube. I don't know all of the details today, but you're not heavily funded, but you're making progress. Revenue's growing. You're expanding. You're doing product. You're doing services. You're breaking through. We have people in the audience here, the live audience, who came in from Washington, D.C., from New York, depending on where you are in the world. That's a pretty decent drag in, right? Because you're doing a great job. You're coming up with something unique and clever, and you're acquiring users because you want to help, but you're naturally acquiring them. That's great.
Yeah. The whole YouTube thing was...
What was the genesis story? Where'd it come from?
Yeah. So we like to think of ourselves as good growth hackers. Growth hacking really is being able to come up with a bunch of marketing ideas all the time, testing them quickly and cheaply, and measuring very well whether they worked or not. I think that's my dictionary definition.
I think it's great.
Then YouTube was just another experiment for us. One that we did time and time again with a bunch of different formats. We even launched a sitcom. If you go on YouTube, you can find our old sitcom.
Okay.
Maybe it's fun now. It wasn't fun enough then. But I think it was pretty good. But that didn't pick up.
Okay.
Until we finally found this combination of content, the format, the animations, which I used to do myself. As you know, this is how experimental we got. We didn't even hire a team. Like I just set aside some time, and I'm a digital animator, so I did those in the first few versions. That's where they suck, and the new ones are much better.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, like it was just another experiment, and it finally picked up. So it's a matter of knowing when to stop, when to run it, and how to measure it very well.
Yeah. Cool.
But it's been fun, and that's why we're here.
It's great.
So I had a question for you, which is another common question. Again, these are questions that directly or indirectly our Slidebean customers have asked, which is the total addressable market slide, or the market slide in general. I see so many companies struggle with that, and I understand why. It's a hard slide to solve. You have a great video on Dreamit about it.
Thank you.
So why don't you run us through your take on that?
Sure. So total addressable market, or TAM, we find 90% of startups get wrong, because as an investor, you want to know how big is the market. Generally, what you're looking for as a venture investor, a market that's about $1 billion or bigger. The reason why is, as entrepreneurs always say, if I just get 1%, well, 1% is $100 million. So like there's a big chunk of revenue to go after there. What we see typically that people make the mistake in figuring out total addressable market is they'll say, well, if you look today at the presentation software market, it's already a multi-billion-dollar market. So that's the market we're going after. No, that's like Google Slides and PowerPoint. That's not necessarily your market. You can't take someone else's market. And they're also charging a different price point. So, but we see very commonly people will sit there and say, well, if you look at cybersecurity today is I don't know the real number, but let's just say it's a $75 billion market. Right. That's the market today without you in it. That's not your total addressable market. That's the market. So it's very simple to figure out a total addressable market. Number of users or customers times how much you're charging. Full stop. I mean, it's a very simple math equation, but what everybody wants to do is they'll say, look, cybersecurity, again, I'm just making up the number, is a $75 billion market. And if I just get 1%, it's a huge number. It's whatever, $75 million or $750 million a year if I do my math. It's late, right? You can't do that. You can't say if I get 1%. You have to do it bottoms up. And in that video on total addressable market on Dreamit, we talk about that. We say, you know what? It's like in high school math, when your math teacher would say, you've got to show your work. When you're doing TAM, total addressable market, you've got to show your work. So you sit there and you say, here's the number of users. Here's how I get that number. I'm charging $5 a month, $20 a year, whatever it is. Show your work and build up your total addressable market. And then document, are you doing US only, South America, global? Carefully document the data. That's it. It's pretty simple. 90% of people get it wrong.
Another slide that's an issue, we talked about it, was the competition slide. So what's your take on that?
Okay, so another Dreamit dose we have is on the competition slide, and we get really crazy about these slides. And I do not an animation, I do a figure. Again, 90% of startups we see, their competition slide looks like this, right? It's a magic quadrant, and we're in the upper right. It's total bullshit. And we even, like at Dreamit, you might come in with a magic quadrant, you're never going to leave with a magic quadrant, because it only lets you show on 2 axes, like it's just complete bullshit. We like a really clean table. You're in the first column. The competitors are next to you. What are the features and benefits of how you compare? What makes you unique and different? And show that table. But the magic quadrant for us is an absolute no-go. And the last thing to remember is when you're just a couple other things, you go in the Israeli companies, they can go right to left. If you're an English-based language or a Romance language, you go left to right. You're in the first column. Everybody is next to you. Put right next to you the 2 or 3 closest competitors. So if I was doing a competition slide for Slidebean, Slidebean goes first. Who are the 2 companies? I would assume it's like Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides or whatever it may be. Who are the 2 that every single time somebody's going to ask you? Put those first, then everybody else goes after it. Then when you're listing the features and benefits, put them in priority order of what customers care about the most and make sure they're based on benefits. That's kind of competition.
Okay.
Again, 90% of people get it wrong.
Yeah.
Easy to get right. Easy to use your product to get it right too.
That's true. That's true. We have templates on the cross thing, and now we're going to remove them because of what you
don't
said.
do it.
How about financial projections? So I see startups struggle with this.
Yeah.
One of our investors, Alan, did our financial model early on. So very early in my entrepreneurial life, I figured out how to do a financial model, which was pretty advanced for me, not going through business school or anything. But how should they estimate this? Should they project 5 years?
Yeah.
How advanced should be this model? Should they project the employees that they want to hire? Should they project revenue into it?
Sure.
What do you want to see as an investor?
So here's what we like to see. We like to see about 3 years of financials. And the most important thing we want to see in financials is the thinking behind them. We want to see the assumptions. I kind of don't exactly care what the numbers are because we know they're going to be wrong. But I want to understand, and we want to understand and see the thought process that goes behind them. By the way, the thing that we know that people will generally get correct is the expenses. They'll be way off on the revenue. They're way overestimated on the revenue, but the expenses will be pretty close. But I want to see the thinking. And when you start seeing, well, we're going to hire 3 salespeople in first quarter, and then instantaneously the revenue goes from $100,000 a month to $1 million a month because we hire 3 people. Well, that means you don't understand how to model, how to think. Like those salespeople, you need to hire them. There's a 3-month delay for them to come up a curve. Their pipeline needs to fill. Where's the 6-month sales cycle? We just want to see that thinking in the model to have an intelligent conversation with the CEO and really pick through the thinking. But we like to see about 3 years is the answer. We know mostly it's going to be wrong. We want to have a conversation behind the thinking because we're very early stage investors.
Thank you. I tell this to our customers and they just don't believe me. Now I'll just play your video.
Okay, it's fine.
Great. What time? We're half an hour.
Half an hour.
So we have some questions here already.
Bunch of questions.
And then, do you want to go to questions now?
Your call.
Let's go to questions,
your show.
and then you guys. I'm sure you guys have questions.
Okay.
So you're here. You get first pick. So did you submit them to the thing, or do you want to ask them? Did you submit them to the thing? So what's your name? We'll start with yours. Sorry. Yeah, what's your name? We have.
Do you have your question? Did you put your question in? What's your name? And we'll just pick it off here. Hold on. Wait, and you submitted it this way?
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
Well, never mind. Ask away.
So the question that I asked was, how do you know the problem you're trying to solve that has the potential of making a big impact? And followed up with that, I said, how do you funnel down to the niche that you want your startup to represent?
Okay, so do you wanna repeat that so I can repeat it?
Sure.
Just the first one first.
Sure.
When it's right here. Right.
Oh, you got it? We got it?
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, so how do you, I'm going to repeat it for the live people.
Yep.
How do you know the problem you're trying to solve has the potential of making a big impact? That's question 1. Question 2, how do you funnel down to the niche that you want your startup to represent?
Sure.
You want to go?
Well, sure, I'll take it. How do you know the problem you're trying to solve has the potential of making a big impact? Just to read it and get it in my own mind. Easy. How many users have you talked to? How many customers have you talked to? I find a lot of times startups go out and they wave. We have a line at Dreamit. They wave their hands. It's a huge problem. Every dermatologist is going to want it. Every lawyer is going to want it. And we say, put your hands down and point at data. You can't do this, but you can do this. So let me just ask. And where did you go to university?
Yes.
Where did you go to university?
I went to Farmingdale State College.
Farmingdale State College. So what's the mascot at Farmingdale State College?
Rams.
Rams, go Rams. Okay, so sorry. So how many Rams, how many other people at Farmingdale State about the problem you're working on? So if you came to an investor and you said, look, we talked to 40 people. I started with some of the people in my fraternity, some of the guys I knew, and I branched out from there because every person I'd meet with, I'd say, are there 1 or 2 other people that you think have this problem? I'd love to reach out to them. And the process of 4 or 5 weeks, we talked to 40 people. And we refined it over time. And of the 40 people, 30 of us said, that's a really big problem. And then we also tested their WTP, willingness to pay. We said, great, would you pay $10 per month per user to make that problem go away? And we measured that. So that's how you start to identify a problem. And we find a lot of startups, even today, make that mistake. Right? They go ahead and they start solving a problem, but they haven't proven that it's a really big and urgent problem.
Yeah, related to that and stuff, little hacks that we did. So this is great. Big advice is don't talk to people that you don't know.
Yeah.
Your friends and family will lie to you.
Right.
So those don't really count.
Right.
And then there's a broader way to doing this. In our case with Slidebean, when we were starting, we figured it's like do people hate PowerPoint enough to sign up for another platform for their presentations? And the way we went ahead and tested that without having to code anything is we built a landing page on Squarespace. Took us like a week. We did a cool animated video, which took us like another week, and we just set that live on the internet. Now we have Product Hunt, and you can just put it there, but we didn't have Product Hunt back then. So social media, a few ads, just throw it around. We managed to get a publication in a newspaper, a small newspaper in Costa Rica. And then we got 1,000 people through that landing page. People who didn't know who I was or what Slidebean was. This is a new product. And then the landing page had this big sign up button in the middle, which was fake. And it had like an email box and a sign up button. We didn't even collect passwords or anything.
Same way
because there was
Dropbox
nothing
started.
behind it. That's the Dropbox story, by the way. And I learned that in a book called The Lean Startup, which I think everybody should. I think you recommended it the first time.
Great book.
Everybody should read
Eric
that.
Ries's book on Lean Startup.
So that's the Dropbox model, and we literally copied that to validate whether people would want Slidebean. 25% of the 1,000 that went to that landing page signed up, which was, to us, enough to say, okay, people want this. Strangers want this.
Right.
They're willing to convert to it. So.
Can I just build on something you said about not asking friends and family? We have another Dreamit dose about talking to customers early. And one of the things we talk about in that is, so we're in New York City, right? So if we went north to Central Park, if I took my baby in a stroller and walked through Central Park and say, Caya, is my baby cute? You know, what do you think of my baby? Who's going to tell you your baby's not cute, right? Oh, it's so cute. Your baby's so cute. That's your startup idea. Look at my idea. Do you think it's cute? Oh, it's great. And one of the things we say is the most powerful question you can say to somebody, if you're asking them face to face, is we have one ground rule, and we're going to talk to you about this idea. And my ground rule is you can't hurt my feelings. If you think what we're doing isn't powerful, isn't helpful, doesn't solve a big problem, you're doing me a favor by punching me in the face. I don't need this, because if it's not a great idea and it's not a big and urgent problem, you're doing me a favor punching me in the face. Because now, by the way, in New York City, you tend to not have to say that too much. In other cities, though, you want to. Anyway, it's a very powerful thing.
Then funneling down the niche to answer your second question. We also learned that the hard way a little bit with Slidebean. We were naive enough to think that we could be a PowerPoint replacement, and we learned not the really hard way, but we were close to it. That it's not a product that we can really replace. Why? Because it's integrated to Office, and it's part of an ecosystem, and we are not building a replacement for Office. We're just building a PowerPoint platform, presentation platform. Google Slides can directly compete with Office, but we're not directly competing with PowerPoint. So that changed our whole story completely. Our customer is not any PowerPoint user. Our customer turned out to be other startups. We're helping. We're trying to raise capital, and then that's our customer. And we've doubled down again and again in that user base, and we seem to have succeeded. Which is your answer. I think this niche is relevant. So Slidebean is probably a shitty tool. I hope not. It's probably a shitty tool for a salesperson.
Right.
It's not going to fulfill their needs.
Right.
It doesn't have the signature thing like PandaDoc does. It's not a tool for sales.
Right.
But it is a great tool for startups. So that's the niche part.
Right. It solves a specific problem for a specific user set.
Right. And then when you have a business, then you can expand on that, which we are of course trying to do.
Right.
Once you have customers and revenue and business, so we've solved it for these guys, and we have a recipe that we can replicate to get more of them. Okay, so who comes next? Right. So how do we adapt this already built product to another audience? Right. But it's a niche to win sort of thing, at least in my experience.
And I find part of the time when you're identifying a niche or you're talking to customers, they kind of reveal themselves. You're starting to get more, no, it doesn't really, no, but then you start kind of deviating a little bit, and it's like a sliver of gold, and you start following it. Now we do a lot of health tech companies. I keep talking to pediatric dermatologists, and they keep coming back, yes. And I kind of follow that seam of gold. And sometimes it iterates. And just to build on that also is when you're asking those early questions around problems, I want you to think about, and I think we want you to think about, and we talk about this a lot at Dreamit when you were there too, what are the one or two biggest assumptions that you have about your product and about your idea? How do you de-risk those assumptions as quickly as possible? And one of the biggest assumptions you're going to have is typically, it's a really big problem that people care about. And if they don't care and they're not willing to pay, that's usually assumption number two.
That's true.
Attack your biggest assumptions.
Okay, did you guys have any other questions? Go.
How do you meet the balance?
What's your name? Because we'll try to pull it out.
Did you
Did you submit it?
No, I
It's fine. It's fine.
Ask away, ask away.
Yeah, so how do you meet the balance when you're doing research, speaking to prospective customers? How do you meet the balance between building something people want, but also not letting people dictate what you ultimately do?
I love that one.
When you're innovating, you're building something new.
Sure.
You're familiar with the Henry Ford quote.
Sure.
How do you meet that balance?
Yeah, so his question, repeating for the live people, is how do you balance building something that people want, which you want to do, but and balancing, not letting the customers dictate what the product does. Oh man, we struggle with this so much at Slidebean because people come from a platform that they're accustomed to using PowerPoint, and then they inevitably want Slidebean to work. Some people want Slidebean to work like PowerPoint does. So it's been a very cool experience to balance what we want to deliver, the experience that we want to deliver, and what people are asking for. So if people ask for a feature like funnel and pyramid diagrams, we just launched that, and it's fine. Like it's okay. It works with our model. My best recommendation there is, make sure that you have someone that has kind of like a long-term broad vision of where the product's going, and have that person be sort of like a police officer on the product roadmap discussion. Like in our case, for example, I don't get too involved with product roadmap. The team mostly dictates that. So the customer team, I have a meeting with them every month or so on like the stuff that customers are desperate for. So I write that down. And then I meet with the marketing team, and they have like a bunch of things that it would be really cool to have, so we could sell a lot more. So that goes on the list. And then I have a meeting with the product team, and they have a bunch of new cool ideas of advanced stuff or stuff that they want to do to improve performance and whatnot, which aren't necessarily stuff that the customers ask for. And then I write all those down. And then we do a balance of what should come first, but always again policing away is my term for it. Policing away stuff that moves away from changing the product vision. Like our product vision from a strategy standpoint, whatever, is we separated content from design. We let you just do content, and design comes later and mostly automated. And then when people want to be able to kind of like edit the design directly, or be able to kind of like use Slidebean to make these really like detailed like millimetric alignments, like that's not the product that we're building. If you want an advanced product to build your absolutely customized platform, that's Illustrator. That's what you should be using. If you're a designer, you should go to Illustrator. Slidebean is for the rest of people, but kind of keeping that vision in mind and knowing where to change it as well. With this whole PowerPoint story, we had a nice a nice struggle. 5 years ago when we started, we thought of PowerPoint as the devil competitor. And then people were starting to ask, like, hey, can I export my Slidebean presentation to PowerPoint? And we're like, no, never. We want you to use Slidebean, and we want to bring you into our ecosystem, and we don't want to let you leave. And for the longest time, we would not let people export to PowerPoint.
Wow.
Because, we were asking, until we finally accepted, we accepted what I just told you. Like, we are not replacing PowerPoint. We're more of like a complementary tool. We're not building another Microsoft Office. We're not building a word processor or a spreadsheet, and we could never do that even if we wanted. So why not let people play along with what they already have? And then that's this shift in product vision. But you need to kind of measure when to make it and how to make it.
Can I just take a stab at that? That works, and another really early angle we find, right? There's the famous line that supposedly Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? Right? And by the way, it turns out he didn't say that, and it's not true. If you go to the museum in Dearborn, Michigan, there's some fancy word in English, and I never remember what it is, that attributes somebody to saying something, but they never really said it. And we won't talk about our President of the United States, but anyway, okay. Dum. Okay, there, talk about fireside chat. Anyway, I'm on fire. Hardly. The other thing, by the way, Elon Musk has a different version to that. Elon Musk says if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster Porsches. Even better anyway. So one of the things we find with startups is one of the best things to do with an early user is show them a product. Don't ask them, what do you want? Say, here's a prototype, here's a mock-up, here's a wireframe, here's a hardware product, and show them that early and get their feedback. Because sometimes people have a difficulty conceptualizing it. Here's a thing that's called a car, it's called an automobile, it has 4 wheels, it rolls, it's got a windscreen, it doesn't poop in the back, you don't have to put hay. Look at all the advantages and describe to them what that product is and the advantages. And sometimes when you see something that's as revolutionary as an Uber, an Airbnb, or those types of things, it's hard. When people first saw Airbnb, everybody thought, well, they're just going to get raped. So literally, I know people like, who's going to host on Airbnb? Everybody's just going to get raped, which is literally, I know an investor that passed on Airbnb, and that was the number one reason. Like, this is crazy. So sometimes as a startup also, you have to drive forward, but not necessarily say, what do you want, but show them something to react to, which is very different.
Yeah, which you should, by the way, again, do in a lean way.
Yeah.
I mean, not build the whole product, but show them in a lean way.
Yeah, show a mock-up, show a prototype. Cool. Okay, want to take the
maybe
next?
do one more from you guys, and then we'll take these, because we have a bunch over here.
Yeah, we have a lot from the audience.
So, Caya, I know that you run a team here in New York and in Costa Rica, and normally you have to have meetings. Do you have the meetings with the whole entire team? How do you create that synergy where you're combining the Costa Rican team with the New York team? Right now I'm dealing with a situation where we have our natural team, but then we have a huge team of interns that we're trying to bring together. It's like, how do I merge the two without making too much of a mess?
Okay. I love this question. So his question was, how do...
by the way, I thought his question was going to be, you have a Costa Rica team, a New York team, who has better coffee? But that would be too simple. Sorry, go ahead.
So
it's more of a cultural issue.
His question was, how to balance and how to keep the two teams in two countries cohesive and culture across those teams, which is a question I love. I'm going to try to answer it quickly.
And tools?
Sorry.
And if you use tools that you use.
Okay, yeah, so Slack is fundamental, one. Another is we have a person whose sole job is to be, we call her a culture manager or a vibe manager. Her sole job is keeping culture within the team. So it's like an HR kind of position. We made up the name because I don't know if this person exists. It's not an office manager. And her sole job is, how to keep the team happy, how to keep them cohesive, how to address stuff that people are uncomfortable with without needing, because people won't raise their voice to me anymore. It's weird, from having 5 people who are, close friends of mine, because we're 5 people working in an office, to now being 20 plus people, and then the newest guy being like, oh, he's the boss of my boss. Like it's really weird for me. But anyway, like having somebody that they can talk to in confidence. 2, 3, we used a very nice system when we did our first hires, which was using a Myers-Briggs psychological test on people. It's this very standard psychological test, and we ran it. Not officially, we asked a few questions in our survey that would give us a Myers-Briggs profile, and then we matched that Myers-Briggs with the person who would be their boss. And surprisingly enough, it let us build like a base of 10 people who were like our original team were really close to each other. Mm-hmm. So that culture really expanded as we hired new people. Now we're not so strict about that, but I think it worked to kind of build the original culture. 4, we don't think of the Costa Rican team as an outsourced team, and I think that's very important. I remember when we did Dreamit the first time, the whole Costa Rica, New York, 2 countries thing wasn't great back then. I remember seeing pushback about it, but now it's cooler because the cost of a developer here in New York City is $150,000 to $200,000. In Costa Rica, it's a fraction of that, so that's an advantage. And then if that developer is not an outsourced person, it's not a person that's sitting at their home, mm-hmm. but they're actually at an office where 2 of my co-founders are based. Then that creates an extension of the company, not an outsourced team. I had one more, but I forgot. I don't know if you have anything else on that.
Nope. A lot of good ideas. A lot of good thoughts.
Yeah, I might remember and tell you. Okay, so let's take the stuff that people left, starting with Robert, because he came first.
And by the way, so yeah, if you have questions, post them in the comments, and also let us know what city you're from is always helpful.
Go.
Oh, I'll read it. Okay, Robert asks, recently I pitched to an angels group, and their feedback was being unsure how they cash out in 5 years. Oh God, I love that question. From our business, how do I realistically without liquidating the company? I can take it, you could take it, whatever you want.
Oh man, this was a huge mindset change for me. When I moved from Costa Rica to be part of the first Dreamit, I understood how the best thing you can do is sell your company. Mm-hmm. It is selling a company that's the liquidity event that an investor wants, and that you should want as an entrepreneur.
Right.
If you think of building a company as this company that you're going to work for the rest of your life, then that might not be the company that you pitch to an investor.
Right. So let me attack this on a slightly different angle. We did a Dreamit Live related to this recently. The number of times if I want to pull the rug out from an entrepreneur, there's like 3 or 4 questions I can ask, and every single time they'll do a face plan on it. One of my favorite ones is, what's your vision for your company? And I'll say, what's your vision? And they'll say, well, my exit strategy in the next 5 to 7 years is to be acquired by Google or Facebook or whatever. I was like, I didn't ask you your exit strategy, I asked you your vision. But they deal with angel investors so much who constantly like, if I write you a check for $50,000, when am I getting my money back and how much am I getting? And for Dreamit, we actually don't give a shit. Now, I don't want to hear the answer to that. What I want a company to do, so I think it's a fake question. So here's how, for Robert, thank you for asking your question. Here's how I'd answer it. I'm not thinking about a short term. I'm not thinking about a liquidity event. I'm thinking that if I build a company that dominates in the market, that truly dominates and is profitable, the right exit will come along, whether it's an IPO or I get acquired or whatever may happen. But I'm not focusing on an exit. I'm focusing on building a great company. That's the answer. Because a lot of times entrepreneurs and investors will say, I want to invest in a missionary entrepreneur, not a mercenary, not somebody who's like, I'm in it and I want to exit in 5 years, because the first time they hit like a pothole along the way and you know, because it's like this and you're on a down cycle, that entrepreneur, oh my gosh, this isn't a 5-year journey. This is like a 7 or 9 year. I'm out. I'm not interested in that. You've got to be into it, and it's more focused on the vision of how you're going to build something huge and just really impactful.
Yeah,
so that's how I'd answer it. I wouldn't answer it. I wouldn't give him a number.
Plugging in Will Schroeder from startups.com.
Yeah.
He has a really good podcast. I hope he'll join us for our
We can give him a
fireside
shout
chat.
out.
Yeah. He has a really good podcast on how hard it is to sell a company. You should listen to that. So we'll make sure we link it.
But it's also, are companies sold or are they acquired? A lot of times somebody comes along and acquires you. You don't deliberately go out and
that's
sell
like
it.
the conclusion. You don't sell it. You have. I mean, it's not something that you have an impact on.
But trust me, if you're doing $100 million a year at a 50 to 70% gross margin, good things will happen. That's what you need to focus on, not focusing on how am I going to exit this.
True.
By the way, best line, and I'm sure he's not watching, but a friend of mine, Garrett Vandergraff, is down in Atlanta, Georgia. He used to work for Coca-Cola a million years ago. He started a vending machine company, and this is like 15 years ago. He had 6,000 vending machines around the Atlanta area. And I said, Garrett, and bootstrapped. And I said, Garrett, what's your exit strategy? He said, what are you kidding? My exit strategy? It's called my will. This thing gushes so much cash. I'm giving it to my kids. Why would I ever sell it? I was like, okay, best exit strategy ever. That doesn't work for an investor, but it was very good for him for bootstrapping. All right,
so moving on. Dominic from Dubai.
Ooh, Dubai. Wow, it's late, really late for you.
How does a startup that is valued pretty high on a seed round raise $1 million or more when they only have a prototype? This one's for you, Matt.
Okay, that's hard. You know, we see a lot of, Dubai, you have that indoor skiing mountain in Dubai, right? So we always talk about sometimes entrepreneurs get ahead of their skis. They get over their skis on valuation. So again, how does a startup that's valued pretty high on a seed round raise $1 million or more? It can be really difficult. Sometimes you have to face a down round. You want to raise the right amount, and just so you know, early stage, seed and Series A type investors, there's a ratio here. So if you tell me that you're raising about $3 million, I know your pre-money valuation is around $15 million. It's about 20% is what you sell. So a lot of times at Dreamit they'll say, how much should I say I'm raising? We'll give a range. So if you say you're raising $1 to $2 million, and there's pros and cons to this, I know you're selling, your pre-money valuation is somewhere between $5 and $10 million. So if you're trying to raise $1 million, you're basically saying that your pre-money valuation is about $5 million. How do you justify that? So you need to be able to back into why your company you feel is worth that valuation today. But you want to be really careful. We see some startups raise a lot of money, don't get a lot of traction, back to your point, with that money, and then go to raise more, and it's difficult because they haven't accomplished a lot.
Okay. Moving on to Anthony. So we have an operating MVP and looking for angels to help solidify patents and propel us forward. How do we find the right angels? We talked a little bit about this. So most of my investors I've met through you guys, Dreamit, warm intros, through Caya Ventures, which are our investors back in Costa Rica, who also was a warm intro. So honestly, I'm not great at answering this question.
Okay.
I want to say a little bit of angel list hunting and a little bit of LinkedIn hunting.
Absolutely.
And trying to find intros.
But hunting, so what are the coordinates? How do I find my target if I'm hunting on AngelList or LinkedIn?
Investors that invested in the market, not in a direct competitor, of
Correct,
course.
not a direct competitor.
The market that are actively investing, that are
Right.
writing checks within your size of round. Yeah.
Okay, I would say I get emails all day long on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great tool. Hi, we're doing a Bitcoin for gambling, and I think that's the kind of thing Dreamit would be interested in. We don't invest in anything like that. What are you talking about? We're doing blockchain. I don't care that you're using blockchain. What's the interesting thing that you're doing? So you're saying, we're raising our Series EE round, and we're looking to raise mezzanine debt for $500 million, so we're reaching out to Dreamit. Like, what are you talking about? That's bigger than our fund. So knowing that targeting coordinates, that type of thing, a couple other things. AngelList is really good. LinkedIn is really good. Using your university connections, looking at things in industries. The other thing I would just say, and we saw this, I did this at a talk down in Tampa, Florida, back in the beginning of the year. They have run this really interesting conference called Synapse. And a lot of entrepreneurs in Tampa, which is a secondary market like Dreamit is, I'm sorry, not like Dreamit, like Philadelphia is, right? It's a kind of a secondary city for raising capital. And they'll say the reason why we can't get funded is there's not enough startup capital in our city. And I said to them, just a quick note, and I don't know, like, let me ask you this. If I was trying to fly from Costa Rica, from San Jose, Costa Rica to Miami, what's the cheapest flight I could get if I wanted to get out of San Jose and get to Miami on American or whoever?
200, 300.
200 round trip?
Yeah.
US dollars?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know how much, Costa Rica, again, the coffee is spectacular. Do you have Starbucks in San Jose, Costa Rica? You do, but and you guys must laugh at it. But anyway, but I was joking with a bunch of startups in Tampa. I said, you say you can't raise funding. If you've got the cure for cancer, get on a frickin' airplane, right? Pay $250 and fly JetBlue and go up to Boston and go raise capital. Don't sit there and use the excuse that there's not enough local capital. That's a bullshit answer. Right? An entrepreneur has barriers and figures out how to get around those. So anyway, there are lots of ways to find angel investors, and there's lots of cities to go to, and maybe what we should do is get on a plane sometimes and get face-to-face with that right investor that you think's prime for you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Keep going?
Yep.
What's next? I'll read it. So let's go,
Vinicio, so that's one of our co-founders. He's cheating.
Cool. Oh, he's cheating. That's
asking
fine.
a question.
Raising money or bootstrapping, when to do each. We talked about
that.
Okay.
Sorry, Vinny.
Okay. Vinny, how about next? Robert Queen. You want to...
So, Robert, what to expect when becoming an investor on Dreamit's investor network?
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay. So Dreamit, the way we run programs, we run 2 cohorts per year. That is not somebody from Dreamit, by the way. We run 2 cohorts per year, and it's about 14 weeks long. Companies go through, and the 2 kind of tent poles of what we do is we do something called a customer sprint and an investor sprint. Like you guys do dev sprints. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of technical founders. They're like, well, I'm busy. I'm doing a dev sprint. How about do a customer sprint and an investor sprint? Both of those networks, they're very, very large. So we get our companies and we travel with them, and they meet with 20, 30 customers, and they'll meet with 20 or 30 investors. To become that network, you go to dreamit.com/investor. If you just go to dreamit.com, you can register. There's no cost to become a customer in the customer network. And customers in New York City, like, the New York Police Department, American Express, BNY Mellon, they're huge companies that are looking for very interesting startups, and they know that only 1 or 2% of startups get into Dreamit, so it's very vetted and very curated. Same thing with customers. So customers and investors, you just sign up. We put you as part of that network. There's no cost. It's the quid pro quo is it's so valuable for us to get our startups in front of those investors. We don't do a demo day anymore. Back when you went through, we used to do a demo day. We stopped that because we just found it was startup theater, and it's better to just get them in front of great investors. So there's no cost, and it's really simple. Just go to dreamit.com.
Okay.
Michael.
Michael, so sometimes the pain doesn't exist because the prospect doesn't see the real opportunity for improvement. Do we use selling skills and solution modeling to try to change the base of thinking, or move on to find the visionaries? Wow, that's a very philosophical question. I think the problem always exists. Even if people don't know, people might not know the solution, but they know the pain. So I would try to apply the word pain here to problem. Gaming, I guess it's an exception. There are startups about gaming, and they're not solving any problems,
right,
or pains.
Right.
That's an exception.
Right.
But I'd say most of the other companies solve a pain, I think.
Right. I'll push back a little bit, Michael, and I appreciate your question. again, let me just read it to get on my mind. Sometimes the pain doesn't exist because the prospect doesn't see the real opportunity for improvement. We find a lot of times startups don't do a great job of explaining the pain point, what the differentiators are, what are the benefits, don't sell the features, sell the benefits. And I mean, if we use as a real life example, the problem that we see why startups will fail, and Steve Jobs has said this and many other people have said this, is if your solution doesn't solve a really big pain point and then offer an order of magnitude better solution, people won't switch. Let's use the best example we have, right? Here's my iPhone 10. You've got an iPhone 10, right? We're talking about iPhone 11 Pros. I haven't switched. Did you get an XS or an XR?
No, I'm not.
Well, but I could tell you, do you know how much better it was? It was faster. I was like, you know what? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. If we go around the audience and say, do you have the latest Galaxy? Do you have the latest iPhone? And you meet people, no, I've got an iPhone 6. I like the physical button. If you're not an order of magnitude better and solving a really big pain point, none of us have, by the way, I do have an iPhone Pro 11 on order. Because the camera, I was with friends last week traveling and they were shooting into the sun and showing me the pictures. I was like, oh my God, that's spectacular. And low light, it was incredible. I don't work for Apple. But anyway, if your pain point isn't solving a really big pain in a unique way and an order of magnitude better, people won't switch. It's just how people are. It's like a comfortable pair of shoes that have holes in them.
Yeah.
You should get new shoes. So anyway.
And further on that,
Yeah.
sometimes pricing is not as much a pain as you think.
Yeah.
I went through this transition where we probably pay $15,000 a month on software, on platforms that we use. Like ours, I mean, that includes like Amazon
Slack.
servers and
Yeah,
whatnot.
AWS.
Intercom is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Stuff that we need for Slidebean to run.
Right.
Sometimes pricing is not that big of an issue.
Right.
Where switching from one platform to the other, maybe it's a little better. Maybe it's a little cheaper, but it's not enough to go through the effort of changing.
Right.
So I think that's also something that you need to take into account. Sometimes just being cheaper is not enough.
Right. And we find startups make that mistake all the time. It's so much better, really. How much better at the end of the day? And is it worth switching? Because switching is painful.
Switching is very painful.
Yeah.
And expensive and mistake prone.
Yep. Okay. I think we're up to this one.
Yeah, so it's an hour now, so we'll do
Yeah, we're
10
Dustin
more
and
minutes.
others. Are we okay to keep going?
10 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, because
10
we
more
want to
minutes.
hang out with you guys.
Okay, and we'll hang out. Yep.
All right, so from Kanupriya, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. I recently pitched to one of the oldest VCs in the Valley. He's quite interested, but wants to see some clinical traction and needs from doctors. What's the best way to respond such that I don't lose his interest until I come back with the results, which could be a few months from now? Investor updates.
Yes.
I love investor updates.
Investor updates are great.
Not to your actual investors, but to investors who are like in your radar.
Right.
A few of our investors came in from investor updates. So just by pitching them once, telling them, hey, this is what we built. No, I'm not interested. Not enough traction. But just sending them a bi-monthly update on, hey, this is what we did last month. This is what we did last month. That works. I think it does.
No, I think that's helpful. The other thing I would say, and it's a great question, and we deal with a lot of health tech companies, a lot, and we see this a lot. This is the first thing just to remember when you leave that investor, leave with very clear parameters. So again, the thing I like to ask that we get Dreamit entrepreneurs to ask, and when they go out on the investor sprint and they're meeting with 20, 30 investors in 2 weeks, they end that meeting with, I'd like to know, is this the kind of startup you'd invest in? And they'll say, well, I'm not sure. Cool. What aren't you sure about? For those of you that have ever done sales, you're trial closing the investor. I want to find out the objections to sale because instead of me selling my clinical thing to doctors, I'm now selling equity to an investor. So I want to ask what those objections to sale are. So if they come back and say, look, I recently pitched the oldest VC, great, quite interested, but wants to see some clinical traction and need from doctors, I'd quantify that. So you said you want to see some clinical traction. Great, how much? If I showed you 3 doctors at 3 healthcare systems, if I showed you 6 at 2 healthcare systems, I'd quantify it and say, great, so if I come back to you 3 months from now, would you write a check? Would you issue a term sheet if I showed you that data? I'm still not sure. What aren't you sure about? The competition. I think there's a lot of competition. Great, so if I give you more information on the competition plus that, but make sure you pin them down. What do they want to see in a very professional way? And by the way, I was in EIR with Josh Koppelman at First Round Capital, phenomenal VC firm that's based in Philly, New York, and San Francisco. And just Josh is great. I was there for a year, and I probably saw 300 CEOs pitch Josh. He said, if there's one thing you're going to learn, it's how to pitch. 300 CEOs, 1 trial closed Josh. One said, didn't flip their Macintosh closed and just walk out the door and say, oh, now that I'm done my pitch, I'm willing to answer any questions. Well, that's mighty nice of you. One person said, Josh, what would it take you to write a check? I was like, oh my God, they're trial closing Josh. I was so impressed. You need to do that and quantify. Sorry.
I didn't do that when I met Josh, and then he didn't invest.
That's okay. He's a great guy.
Okay. All right. So what is from Google? From one of you guys. That's great.
Live.
So what is considered traction without a product? Would that be social media following, interest in companies, or is it subscriptions? And how much traction is enough traction?
Okay.
So in SaaS, there are I could almost say there are milestones. SaaS is my thing, but so when we raised money, we were making about $5,000 worth of MRR. That's a seed round. You could almost call it a friends and family round. And then when we were trying to raise like a post-seed Series A, whatever, depending on what coast you are, you could call it differently. I could not get a meeting without $1 million in ARR. You just don't get through the door. How much is your ARR? 800? No. 1.1 or 1.5 is the minimum. So in SaaS, there's a very clear number for that.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm sure in the other industries there is.
Yep. So we see in health tech and secure tech and all of them, it's about $1 million in annual recurring revenue or ARR. ... about $80,000 a month in MRR is what investors want to see. By the way, there's exceptions to that rule. If you were doing $10,000 last month MRR, this month you're doing $20,000 a month, the next month you're doing $50,000 a month, and so you're not at $1 million, but the slope of the curve. Investors invest in the slope of the curve, right? So if you're climbing like a rocket ship, you'll be able to close that. So there's some exceptions to that.
Same as if you might be doing 2 million, but if it took you too long to get there, then that's not that exciting anymore.
So let me attack this with a couple other answers, by the way. If you want to throw out to an investor bullshit vanity metrics, you can try all day long. We've got 1 million followers on YouTube. Great. How does that or on Twitter or whatever. Cool. How does that translate for your product? It's great, but how do you monetize that? Can you prove? Like we always say, that's awesome, but what can you prove? Show us some experiments or tests and convert any of them over to the product. Well, that's why I need $1 million because I have to build the product first. Let's take your example. You did a vapor test, right? A smoke test. You built a fake landing page. You can use like landingpage.com or there's so many of them these days. Something rock, I forget. It was
LaunchRock.
LaunchRock, thank you. Tired. LaunchRock. Create a fake landing page. Show us that you can get there. So be careful on vanity metrics. The other thing I just want to mention quickly, you said a seed or a Series A. Just a quick advice for those that are watching live or on the stream, just make sure never burn a letter, right? If you haven't raised your Series A, call it a seed. And then if you're not really fully Series A, call it seed 1. It's why you see all of those. But we see a lot of entrepreneurs, well, I've raised my friends and family, I'm just going to raise my A. No. There's a lot of optics when you start using letters. So, friends and family, seed, seed-1, A, like A-1, be very careful. Because if you say you're in a B, there's a lot of, like you'd say, you can't raise an A without $1 million in ARR. So be careful on what letter you call.
That's true. Very true.
All right.
You want to do last one? Last one?
If you want.
Holy cow.
There's a lot of questions. It's up to you.
Yeah, because I really want to hang out with the guys.
Okay, so there's a bunch that are live from the audience.
We'll do.
Do you want to take
co-founder? Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
How do I find a co-founder?
JJ?
Yeah, JJ, you won the last.
How do I
find a co-founder? Oh man, we get asked this a lot. Finding a co-founder is very hard. It's a very complex relationship that you have to jump into. I always say that it's like marriage without the sex, because you have to deal with money, you have to deal with hiring and firing people, and you have to see this person probably every day. I lived with my co-founders in the same apartment for about a year, so it's it can go bad very quickly. So that's why you have legal and vesting periods and so on, and we have a video about that. You can check it out. We'll link it.
Where do I find that?
That's on the Slidebean YouTube channel.
Slidebean YouTube.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. And what's the name of the video?
It's founder agreements. I think. Founder agreements.
Founder agreements. Okay. Awesome.
So I think I think you have to date. That's the concept that came up. Date your potential co-founder. Do a project together. Hack a website. Work together on something before committing. I think that works. My two co-founders, Vinny with me through elementary and high school. So we were very close friends. And then when Potatoes went out of business and I was starting Slidebean, I called him up and said, hey, I'm considering starting this company. Will you join the boat? And he did, because we had worked together. We knew each other all 20 years or so. So that was an easy find. Jose, who is our CTO, and those are the hardest ones, by the way. Your CTO is the hardest one. Why? Because good developers have a job and they make good money. But I think it's also a great test of your company. If you can convince a developer who's making $150 a year in this city to quit their job or to consider quitting their job and come work for this company as a co-founder, that means that you have something on your hands. And if you haven't been able to find that person, I think it's also a test on whether you need to pivot the idea or pivot the way you're selling it. We found Jose on LinkedIn. As a hiring position, we were like naively thinking that we could hire this person when it eventually had to be a co-founder because of his experience, because of the company we were building, because of how relevant they were to the company. So LinkedIn, but I would say meetups are a good extension of that. Attending this sort of thing. Thanks for coming again. I think that's a good extension of it. What else do you have?
A couple things. I'd say meetups that are around a certain theme. Hackathons are really great. We see people meet co-founders a lot at hackathons. Those would be the two big things. Obviously, we see a lot of people meet in college. They're in college classes together. We get a lot of college teams that originally formed in college or high school friends, that type of thing. On that note, by the way, when you're looking for a co-founder, try to make sure you're not finding somebody who's like you. Typically, it's a mixed team. And just, at Dreamit, we'll always take a co-founding team that comes in. That's, again, most of the startups that come into Dreamit are a year or two old. They've got product, they've got revenue. But you love that, one's the business person, one's the technical, or one's business and there's two technical. I'll tell you the thing that we won't ever take, and I used to teach at Wharton in the MBA program. If we have like 3 Wharton MBAs, we have a great idea and we're just going to outsource the tech. I'm really not interested in that. I will take 3 people that are technical, but I won't take, this is just me, I won't take 3 business people where we're just going to outsource the tech. That never seems to work well, but the other way around. But the best is the mix of the two. You mentioned the legal. That's really important. It's a little bit like a prenup. Really good to get that buttoned up. We've seen a couple of companies blow up getting off the ground and the legal is not cleaned up and everybody, the co-founder is leaving and they own 50% and they walk out the door with their 50% and it's a disaster.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's a very complicated thing.
Yeah. So those are,
and you can fix it if you didn't do it. And we got some questions on that after that video. What if I didn't do it? You can fix it. Find a lawyer and get that fixed. And
a lot of lawyers, there's one, Cozen O'Connor, down in Philadelphia, they have it on their website. It's called like Startup Launch Kit, and it's so templatized, they just give that away. And if you want to customization, but anyway, do you want to take this last one from the audience and then?
Okay, so let's do one from you guys. And
I meant from this audience because the live ones we can do live. This is from streamed audience.
Okay.
From LinkedIn.
If someone has pitched a VC firm, what's the standard expected follow-up frequency? Weekly, sooner or later? That's good.
I'd say, and that's from. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Canupriya. I hope we pronounced it right this time. I'm sorry.
What's the cadence? I would first of all follow up right away and thank people. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for meeting with us today. Here's a copy of the deck, that type of thing. I would give it a week if you don't hear from them. But remember, don't leave the meeting without that trial closed. Like if you're not clear on what the cadence should be, following up, what are the open issues, what are you concerned? And by the way, David Bookspan, who's one of the co-founders of Dreamit, has a great line. The second best answer to a yes is a fast no. If they're not interested, that's okay. I think Jeff Bezos, if I remember correctly, he met with 60, I think the number is 60 VC firms to raise his Series A. Back in the day, by the way, there was no seed round when Amazon started. 60. Think of, by the way, the 59 of them that feel like total schmucks, that said no to that. But anyway. But it's important to make sure that you leave with clarity. Is this something? What do you need to see? How do we need to follow up? When can we follow up? And be careful, well, it's not in our wheelhouse, or we want to see more. The classic thing of VC, sorry, just to end on it, a VC will always preserve optionality. That's the expression in the VC. They don't want to say no. We want to see a little bit more traction, because why? Maybe you'll make it. So you want to be really careful to quantify how much traction and pin them down. So.
That's great. Where can they find your channel?
Okay, so we'll hit that. So let's talk about you. So they can find, if they're looking for content from Dreamit, it's dreamit.com. Our Dreamit Dose we've talked about is on YouTube. You can follow us there, and also follow us on LinkedIn. If you go to Dreamit Ventures, and follow us on LinkedIn. You'll get alerts when we put out the content. Can I talk about your stuff? Your stuff is phenomenal. His audience is growing. He's got millions of views, probably crossing over 20 or 30,000 followers on YouTube, and it just keeps growing and growing. If you're streaming in, there's probably 20 or 30 people in the audience in front of us. They all came because they saw you on YouTube, which is great. So we go to Slidebean on YouTube, right?
Yeah, so YouTube Slidebean is our main channel.
Yeah. Where else can we find
Most of what we do, we post there. My LinkedIn, you can just connect with me. I'm Caya on LinkedIn. Caya Slidebean, you can just Google that. And then slidebean.com. That's where we are mostly doing this stuff. We do a video every Thursday. This is our Thursday, really cool, incredible production video for today. And then thanks a lot for tuning in. And then we'll have a beer and some pizza.
Sounds good. And then if you want to follow future Dreamit stuff, you just follow dreamit.com/live. Just a bunch of thank yous. Thank you for inviting us. This was his idea, and to come up from San Jose, Costa Rica, and do it here live in New York from your New York location. I want to thank Dustin, who's doing production, Charles, who's doing tons of stuff, Victoria, who's collating questions and lots of stuff. Who from your team is here?
So Gustavo and Derek, who flew in. Where's Derek? There's Derek, who flew in from North Carolina.
Yep.
You guys should hang out with them. They're part of the Slidebean team.
Yep.
The videos are so associated with me because I'm the face in them. But no, it's a huge team that works behind them. So kudos to everybody, and thanks a lot for watching again.
Thanks for live audience and people streaming in.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We'll cut it there. Thank you.